Welcome back, guys, to our final Wilds of Eldraine limited set review. If you guys missed our introduction, all of the colors and the multicolor, go check those out. They are already up. But today we're going to be going over every single colorless artifact and land in Wilds of Eldraine and give them a rating between 1 and 5 for limited. We got Yanks on the call. Welcome back, Yanks.
Good to be back for the last one in the series.
All right, let's dive right in because I know the last couple were a little long. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, 2 mana for an artifact. You may spend mana as though they were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them all have activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Cauldron. Exile target creature card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Okay, so hear me out. How do you feel about the fact or the idea that there is no cards, no creatures with activated abilities in the set? There are, I'm sure, but let's just pretend. 2 mana, tap, exile any creature out of any graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter. Feels real good to me.
I think that card's fine. I don't know if I'm that excited about it, but I would certainly play it.
And then you have just this upside added. I don't think I'm cutting that card, right?
No, you're certainly playing it.
Because this is guaranteed 2 mana, put a counter, threat of activation, instant speed, end of turn stuff. It lets you go into combat with all your 2/2s and they have 1, 2, 3 or whatever, right? And then you can just do it in response to whatever, which it feels really good. I think I'm playing this in every deck.
Definitely.
And then if I get an activated ability, all the better.
I think I've got this at a 3, maybe a 3/5.
I like it at a 3. I don't think there's going to be a ton of activated abilities that you're going to hit with this. There are few. Some of them are useless. And then the chances of them or you having one is also dies. There's a lot of things that have to go right for more shit to happen. So I'm going to say that every single creature that enters the graveyard is a +1/+1 counter for you and adds up really fast over time.
Okay, yeah, I'm with that. I'm with you on that. I like a 3 there.
This basically guarantees you, I would say, 6 counters spread across whenever you want them. I like it. Candy Trail. What's up?
No, I was going to say Candy Trail.
Oh, go ahead.
Next up, we have Candy Trail. It's a 1 mana artifact food clue. I don't think we've seen that combined before. When Candy Trail enters the battlefield, scry 2. You can pay 2, tap sack. You gain 3 life and draw a card.
Oh, you get to do both.
Yep.
That's cute.
I'm a fan of this card.
Yeah. And it scries when it comes into play, so this is a lot of things. It's cheap.
You're gaining a life, you're drawing a card, you're getting to scry, you're getting a cheap artifact to sacrifice to bargain. I mean, then you don't draw a card from it, but
yeah,
less excited out of it.
I don't want to be sacrificing a whole card to bargain, because most of the bargains were incremental value, not whole cards worth of value. So
I agree, but it's still something that can come up. Card's I don't say a 2.5.
Yeah. I think I might be a little lower. I do think it's very playable, but I'm just going to give it a 2. I feel like it is 3 mana, scry 2, draw a card. Most decks won't be able to capitalize on the life gain in any way, so it's kind of, maybe die slower. In some games, 3 life can certainly be the difference, but I don't know if I'm willing to give it any sort of bump for that.
True. I think scry 2, draw a card on a colorless spell for 3 I'm pretty happy with, especially doing it incrementally.
Yeah. All right. So about a half point off. Not too bad. Collector's Vault, 2 mana for an artifact. Pay 2, draw a card, then discard a card. create a treasure token. This will be really good if you have like multicolored decks. I like this for fixing and for ramp.
I like it for both those things. It's not the worst card to throw in your deck in other decks as well. Probably not like Boros, like an aggro deck, but just getting to filter away late game lands is nice. I mean, then at that point, the treasure's not relevant, but maybe you get something for bargain.
I was going to say it is for bargain. Yeah, absolutely. You beat me to it. I think that this is a solid card in any deck, and it will play up very well in 3-color decks. So I'm willing to give this a 2.5.
2.5 works for me.
Arietti. Oh, your turn.
We have Ariette's Tempting Apple. 4 mana for a legendary artifact food. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. And you can pay 2 to sacrifice it to gain 3 life. It's a food. You can also pay 2 to sacrifice it to make target opponent lose 3 life.
That's a weird ability to have on an artifact.
Which the lose 3 life or the threaten?
The threaten.
Yeah.
But I guess like that is kind of like a 6-point swing over 2 turns. So normally you're threatened, you hit them for 3 or 4, and then they stable, and then they get it back or whatever, and you're sad. But in this situation, you can also then do an additional 3 points of damage, which can be a lot of damage between those two things. So I'm kind of on board for this as like the top end of an aggressive deck.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to say, like, well, you could maybe bargain away their creature if it's a token, but also you've already spent 4 mana, so you probably can't.
Yeah, but if this is your turn 5 and 6 of, like, a Boros aggro deck, for example, like, that could just finish your opponents off.
True, but yeah, the 5, 6, 7 point swing could definitely do that.
It's actually more than that, right? Because, so if you're the Boros aggro deck, not only are you taking their, let's say, 3-powered creature, you're also removing a blocker, so you have 1 more creature that's getting in. So, like, your 2-drop gets in, that's 5 damage, 6, 7, 8 damage with this on top. That's a big swing.
Definitely, it can do that. It's mitigated a little bit if you don't end the game there.
I'm hoping with Boros on turn 5 and 6, 8 damage should end the game.
God, I hope not. If that's true, I'm going to hate this format.
If not, you did not Boros well.
I like people not Borosing well.
I mean, a threaten that has a built-in lightning bolt, that's so much reach for an aggro deck. This has to be good in those decks. Anyway, the average deck, no thank you. This is going to be like a 1.5. But I do think that this is maybe like a 2.5 in Boros.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Gingerbrute, 1 mana for a 1/1 with haste. Gingerbrute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures if you pay 1, or you can pay 2, sack it, and gain. This was annoying in the first one, but I don't think it was like super scary in any way. And there were some things that capitalized on foods. It doesn't seem like it's as important as I thought this set. I thought food was going to be more important than it ended up being, but I think this is a 2.
It's a 2. It's nice as a cheap drop to put like early rolls on.
Yeah.
But
that's really cute. If you give it a young hero roll and it just becomes a 4/4, and then you could just make it unblockable.
Yeah.
Oh, like so good. That will be very good.
So if you're leaning into that synergy or you really want the food, then sure. Otherwise it's probably like a 1/5 if you don't have that.
I agree with that.
Hilda's Crown of Winter, 3 mana legendary artifact. Pay 1, tap it to tap target creature. Its ability costs 1 less to activate during your turn, so it's just free. 3, sacrifice Hilda's Crown of Winter. Draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control.
Oh, I like that.
This card's really good. It's absurd in blue-white.
So you can always draw 2, right? So you could tap.
Yes.
On their turn, you tap on your turn, and then you can still pay 3 to sacrifice it to draw 2. Plus, it makes it really, really hard for your opponent to ever alpha swing you.
This is really good. I mean, it's not, I was going to say Icy Manipulator, but it's not because you can only tap creatures, but
But it has the added bonus of drawing you 3 cards, so I'm fine with that.
Oh, it's definitely better, and it's definitely a better play pattern because you can't use it to like tap down people's lands.
Yeah, I think this is really, really cool. And honestly, Icy Manipulator wins games just tapping creatures. So I am very high on this card. This and the Signpost uncommon like draws you cards every time you tap for this this deck feels so good. I'm gonna give it a 4. This feels fantastic.
I think it's a 4. It's so cheap. Any deck's gonna play it because you still be able to draw a couple cards off of it. And blue-white, it's just gonna feed everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next one is the Iron Crag, a Ren Crag.
Should be the aggro crag.
But it's not. What?
Well, you didn't watch Guts when you were younger?
No.
No, they're the game show on Nickelodeon. The final thing was they had to climb the aggro crag.
I see. No, I was a Disney kid. Sorry.
Ah.
But the Ren Crag, 2 mana for a legendary artifact you can tap for a colorless. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have this become a legendary equip artifact name some. If you do, it gains 3, pay 3, and equip creature gets +3/+3 and loses all of their abilities. Huh. And it doesn't stay that way until end of turn. It just turns into that. It's just a 2 mana colorless mana rock that eventually, when you want it to, will turn into a 3/3 equip for 3. How many are there legendary creatures in this set? There's
I'm about to check. They're definitely. I mean, a lot of the multicolor cards were.
I'm scarred from like Lord of the Rings, where everything was a legendary creature, but like.
That search didn't work.
I feel like there's enough to where this could be a thing and be okay, but I think for the most part, I'm not interested in playing this. It's probably a 1.5.
Well, I think you're probably right, although the fact that it's just a 2 mana rock is decent.
I don't usually want 2 mana colorless rocks in my limited decks.
Blue, I mean, I guess blue-green probably does, just because it seems to want a lot of ramp, but you're probably right. Now, you're right. I'm not finding, like, just looking at the monocolors, I'm through white and blue, and I haven't found a single legendary. So they're probably just the multicolors.
Someone said, look at the last line of text. Gets +3/+3 and loses all other abilities. Okay. Again, I think you are the EDH player that keeps like commenting on cards for constructed and EDH. This is only limited. Most of the shit that we're playing is absolute trash and has no abilities to begin with. So +3/+3 is a benefit. Not always, but like most of the time they're like ETB effects or whatever. And then by the time you are suiting something up with this, that doesn't matter. So yeah, this is all limited. Oh yeah, I forgot. So when you were saying like, ooh, this is unplayable, I'm just like, I feel like the question is can we use this as an early mana ramp? If that's all it is, I don't care. But if it then pretty consistently turns into equipment, then you get the best of both worlds. Neither the rock nor the equipment is very powerful and limited, but having them both in when you need them is pretty cool. And I would say that would make it playable.
So also, now I'm actually rereading this card a little closer. The equipment gives the creature +3/+3. The creature does not lose all other abilities. The Iron Crag loses all.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
so
also
it's no longer. So it's no longer a mana rock, basically.
That I already knew that, but I also thought the creature lost all abilities, and I was still fine with it.
So it's just +3/+3.
Even better.
Yeah.
Are we doing a legendary creature count or anything?
Slowly. I found 2 so far.
Just look at like one color.
3.
I'm gonna just
white and blue had none, but black has 1, red has 2.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this is not playable. Fuck it.
And then like most of the multicolor creatures were legendary, I think.
Oh, multicolors. And those are all uncommons. Yeah. Okay, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so it's a decent number. It's certainly no, it's not Lord of the Rings where everything was.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that this is like a 2. I don't like it that much. I don't care about either side. I would need at least 4 legendary creatures in my deck to play this.
I think I might be a little higher. I think I might have it as a 2.5, but there are 23 legendary creatures.
Okay, that's good. If I have 4 in my deck, I'm happy to play this.
A decent number, I will say, a decent number to be fair, are rare or mythic, because legendaries usually are.
Just the signpost and stuff, right?
The signposts are all uncommons, and
all right,
which is 10.
Prophetic Prism, 2 mana. You're a 2.5 on that, right?
Yes.
When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, pay 1 to add a mana of any color, so it just fixes, filters your lands for you, but it replaces itself. And I like these cards a little bit more in this set because you can draw the card and then bargain it away when you don't need it anymore. So that's a really nice thing that Prophetic Prism doesn't normally do for you. So you have that late game use for it where you don't need the mana anymore, so it's still good. I think it's a little bit better than it normally is for that, and I'm happy to give this, like, what are you thinking, Yanks?
I think it's a 2 unless you're a heavy bargain deck.
I was going to give it a 2.5. But
I guess it also depends. There's just more than bargain, to be fair. It's if you're splashing.
Yeah.
There's a few things. So I could see that as a 2.5. It's just one of those cards I feel like always ends up getting cut as like the 23rd card.
I agree. And I think I would be totally with you without bargain. And I feel like there was enough bargain for me to know that, like, most decks will have a few loose pieces here and there. And I like the color smoothing.
We got a Scarecrow Guide here. 2 mana, 2/1 with reach. Pay 1 to filter mana. You can only do it once per turn.
No, thank you. For some reason, when you said reach, for some reason in my head I read Defender, and I was like, Scarecrows usually have Defender.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, no, thank you. But this is fine.
It's stuck on the beanstalk, so it's reaching.
Yeah, 2 mana, 2/1, fine with reach, fine. And it, again, filters for fixing purposes. I mean, honestly, 2 mana, 2/1 with reach, I'm kind of on board for. And if I'm 3 colors or, have some, like, crazy double greens or whatever triple green spells, all the better. This card seems fine to me. I like it at like a 2.5.
I've got it as a 2, probably the same as the Prism.
Okay. I like it a little bit better. It makes your starting hands so much more flexible. Like, you can just keep, green hands. And it's not a tap ability, so you can still get aggressive with it or leave it back for blocks while also fixing your mana. Half a point off. I like that card a lot. Soul Guide Lantern, another reprint. 1 mana for when Soul Guide Lantern enters the battlefield. Exile a card. Target card from a graveyard. You can pay to sacrifice it. Exile each opponent's graveyard. Pay 1, tap, sacrifice it, draw a card. Sideboard card for Golgari, basically.
Sideboard, it is.
It is a 1.
We have Sir Ginger, the Meal Ender. A 2 mana 3/1. Oh, I missed this. Is another legendary creature. 24. Legendary creature Food Knight. Sir Ginger the Meal Ender has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as an opponent controls a planeswalker. Okay, so that doesn't matter. Whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Sir Ginger and scry 1. And you pay 2, tap, sack, you gain life equal to its power.
Aw, do you get it? Whenever her love dies, then she gets bigger and scarier.
It's pretty cute.
It's a 2 mana 3/1. And anytime you sack a treasure or a clue or a ginger brute or a food, you're going to get bigger. So I think this card's quite good. I would say that this is... I think the average deck will have some food and treasures, so I'm just going to kind of give it a good mix and say it's a 2/5.
I'm actually a little higher on this card. I think I have it as a 3.
Yeah, I was trying to think of all of the different color pairings. And so, like, if you're not in black, green, Black and green are the food, and then the treasures, black, green, red. So those 3 colors. If you're in the other 2 color pairings, then you're like, don't have them. Because the auras and stuff are not, right? So sometimes this will just be a 2 mana 3/1. And you figure some of the decks are split, but then they won't utilize that. Like, let's say the white green decks, but then they don't focus on food because they don't really, the white doesn't want food, so they're not going to take food cards highly, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I think in double color pairings of those 3 colors, this will be a 3, and then the any of the other ones will be like a 2. So it'll probably get a good mix.
Fair enough.
Half a point off. 3 bowls of porridge, 2 mana for a food. Pay 2. Choose one that hasn't been chosen. 3 bowls of porridge deals 2 damage to target creature. You could tap a creature, sacrifice 3 bowls of food to gain 3 life. Huh.
I love this card. I just love the design and the flavor of it. Deals 2 damage. It's too hot. It's too cold. It taps it, like it freezes it. And it's just right. It's just right. You gain 3 life.
It's just for you eat it. Yeah. That's stupid cute, honestly. It's so cute, I hate it. Actively hate this card. But no, I think the 2 damage is really cute. It is 4 damage, deal 2 damage, most likely. Like, I'm going to want to do this then kind of thing, but it's fine. Plays well in, like, Azorius for sure. We want that ability. I think this card is fine. I think it's a 2.5.
2.5, it counts as a food for anything that cares about food tokens. I like it at 2.5.
All right, guys, that's the end of the artifacts. We're going to keep going with the lands today to wrap up our colorless. We've got Crystal Grotto. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. It taps for a colorless, and it also can filter. A lot of filtering. So we are seeing a ton. We didn't see any support, but since we've been in green, multicolor, and colorless, we've seen a ton of support for 3-color decks.
There's very little actual, like, fixing, but there's a lot of filtering.
Yeah, I mean, green had some fixing, right? And go search for lands, do that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of filtering. Which I consider fixing, honestly. Edgewall Inn. Oh, wait, rating-wise. I think that this is... doesn't enter tapped. So I'm playing this in a 2-color deck just fine, even if I don't need the filtering. And I'm playing it in a 3-color deck when I don't need the filtering. Because in a 2-color deck, I'm fine with 1 colorless to scry.
It's just a 2 for me. You're playing it, but it's not.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It kind of has both sides of the coin. Like,
yes.
It has a benefit for 2-color decks when you don't need the mana, and it has a benefit in 3-color decks when you do. But I like it at a 2 as well. Edgewall Inn enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Add a mana of the chosen color. You can pay 3, sacrifice it, return target card that has an adventure from your graveyard to your hand. I like this. Fixes your opening hands really, really well, and gets you some card advantage late in the game.
Probably playing this in almost anything. I mean, maybe a little questionable in Boros, just because you don't like tapped lands, but you'd still probably play 1.
Yeah, I agree. And also, it will depend on the strength of your adventure cards. If you have 1 adventure and it's kind of a shit card anyway, then you just don't want the tap mana.
Sure, although I might just be willing to take it just because it can be either color in my opening hand.
Yeah. Well, I just meant like you're weighing that with how aggressive your deck wants to be kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So rating-wise, I think that this is like a 2.5.
2.5 works for me.
All right. Evolving Wilds. We did have it. I knew it. Evolving Wilds, I think, is great. Fixing, thinning, does all the things, fuels your graveyard if you need it. I don't know. Nothing really in this set actually wants cards in graveyard all that much. 2.5 for me.
Yep, 2.5 like it usually is.
All right, is this the land cycle, I think? Enters the battlefield taps for a Boros, and you can pay 3. It becomes a 2/2 red and white ox creature until end of turn. It's still a land. When it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That seems dope. Very Boros.
It's interesting that effect on a land. It was a little different, but used to be on Gruul and Raging Ravine. Now it only grew itself, but it was whenever it attacks, it gets a counter. And now it's moved into Boros. It's a little bit of a change in the ability, but I like that card a lot. I mean,
creature lands really are
always good.
It fixes, comes into play tap, but that's okay. It fixes, it turns into a creature, and it can buff itself to, keep protecting itself and growing. But also, if you get free attacks, you can pump your other creature. I think this is a really good card. It does a lot of things I want Boros to be doing. I think this is like a very high 3.
Agreed. I've got it as a 3 too. A 3 as well.
It's so good at what Boros is trying to do. I want to give it a bump, but it is just, I don't know. I'm going to give it a 3-5. I'm going to bump it.
I'm going to keep it at 3.
Because I usually put just dual lands at 3 because they help fix and, they're very good to have and that's very nice. But I don't know. It also turns into a creature late game that is very on brand. It's kind of like the D&D lands, like Bugbear Den and stuff. If those played insanely well, and I feel like these are pretty darn close. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
It's fair.
Restless Cottage enters battlefield tapped. Golgari, pay 4. It becomes a 4/4 black and green horror creature token until end of turn. Whenever it attacks, create a food token and exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. These are really good.
Definitely.
I'm going to give all of these a 3.5. You're still on the 3 boat?
I'm on the 3 boat. I don't think I'll be on. I'm not going to be on the 3 boat for all of them, but I am for these first 2.
Okay. Yeah, this feels really strong to me. I'm going to do another 3.5. All right. Orzoft, 4 mana, becomes a 1/4 white and black nightmare until end of turn. Whenever it attacks, defending player loses 2, you gain 2. So it essentially attacks for 3 and gains you 3, or gains you 2. So that is most likely just a 4-point life swing, because if they can't block a 1/4, then they're probably dead several turns before this is relevant. But I like that.
I like this one a lot. The fact that it doesn't have to hit to be a threat is a big deal for me.
Yeah, agreed. It is easy to block and it doesn't kill anything, so I feel like the other ones can tussle a little bit more and you're okay to trade them. Like the Boros one attacks as a 3/3, the other one attacks as a 4/4. If they've got 2 2/2s, you really can't do much with this. So the fact that it can't tussle and you kind of need to be able to swing with this freely, even if they're blocking it and bouncing it, then that's good. I'm actually a little lower on this one, but I still think it's a 3/5, but I think this one's not as good.
I think it's still a 3 for me.
All right. The Izzet colors pay 2 only, and it becomes a 2/1 elemental with, as long as it's your turn, it's still a land and has first strike. As long as this is a creature, as long as it is your turn, creature has first strike. Okay. Whenever it attacks, scry 1. You have to be able to. You have to be able to attack with it to get its ability, which means they can't have anything bigger than a 2-powered creature.
2 toughness.
That's what I meant. I like this one the least.
I do too. It is only 2 mana to activate, which is nice for being able to activate and do other things.
I also feel like it's the weakest of the triggers as well. A +1/+1 counter, draw a card, remove a card from the graveyard, and drain 2. This is Scry 1 is definitely the weakest.
It is certainly the weakest.
I'm going to bump this down to a 3 for me.
I think I'm keeping it at 3. But I agree, it's worse than the other 3.
Simic, 5 mana until end of turn, becomes a 5/5 green and blue plant creature with trample. Whenever it attacks, up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. You can do it to their blocker. That's really cute. And you can also do it to your 1/1 or whatever and make it bigger. That's nice.
This is the one I have higher at 3/5.
I'm going back up to a 3.5 as well.
Green-blue is going to be most likely to have the spare mana, where the fact that it costs 1 more than a couple of them, not counting the blue-red one, isn't as big of a deal. And the fact that you can do it both offensively to your own creature or defensively to their blocker is a big deal.
Yeah, none of the mana costs were too much of a bother to me because these are mana creatures, so by the time you want to be messing with them, it's because you're usually out of cards anyway, which is turn 5 and 6, 7 anyway. So I agree with you that you're more likely to be able to pay 5 easily, but I don't think paying 3 and 4 either will be a problem for any of the other colors because you usually want to do it mid to late game anyway.
True.
And neither ability, 4 or 5, you're likely casting other spells with it anyway. Especially because this is actually 6 mana, right? Because you're also attacking with the dumb thing.
Sure, and the others are 5, yeah.
Yeah, and I think in both situations, you're probably doing that when neither of those is a huge hardship to you because you can't double spell anyway. That is the end of the cycle. That's the end of our colorless and the end of our set review. Yanks, how you feeling about Eldraine so far?
I think it looks all right. I know I'm not as excited about the set as you are, but there's nothing to necessarily dislike about it from looking at the cards from a limited perspective. Not too many bombs, which is nice.
Yeah, not too many bombs. It doesn't seem as fast as some of the more recent sets, which is really exciting. I'm looking forward to getting in some very grindy games, some good value cards going on. And overall, what archetype color pairing are you most excited for?
I really want to see how good the blue-white deck is. Yes. It looks really good, but I've been down that road before with Azorius.
So when we did the introduction, I said Azorius was the one I was the most excited about, but I was most happy to see Orzhov and the Golgari, because I knew that those would be better, and I didn't think the Azorius would be very good. Turns out, I don't think the Golgari is actually good in this one, and the Orzhov also fine, but not as explosive as I would have hoped. But the Azorius seems super good. I'm really excited. I did not expect it to look that good.
I think Azorius looks really good. I think Dimir looks decent. Rakdos looks pretty good. Golgari just, even though they gave it an actually better defined theme than usual this time, just always seems underwhelming. It's just a few good cards, but things that don't really work that well together.
Agreed. All right, guys, that's the end of our set review. Don't forget to leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the set. And don't forget, make sure you check out the introduction. That's the most important one where we go over all the draftable archetypes and all of those fun things. Tomorrow is the early access event. So I will be posting a live draft for you for Eldraine a few days before the release of the arena launch. But that does mean that you will have some gameplay of me before you guys go to your pre-releases. So make sure you guys check that out. It will be posted Friday morning. So that should be tomorrow if you're watching this the day that it comes out. So Friday morning before you head to pre-releases, you will have some live gameplay and we'll test out a few decks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget, leave me a comment and we'll see you next time. Bye.